Welcome to Market Madness, the podcast from GiveMeSport, where every day is like deadline day.
Market Madness is the ultimate football podcast for fans who want to go beyond the headlines and into the stories that shape the transfer market. Each episode will feature high-profile guests, breaking news, features, games, and challenges.
And you can watch the show on YouTube and Facebook or listen on your podcast app of your choice. Link can be found in the show notes. For more info on any of the stories discussed today, head over to GiveMeSport's website.
Myself, Olivia Buzaglo, and Joel Beya are joined by our resident journalist, Ben Jacobs. Ben, how are you?
Good to be here. I'm bringing the heat. It's technically Miami Heat, but I thought it was special to wear this because we are going to have some very exciting news coming up throughout the show. And you know what? Yesterday was a bit like deadline day. All kinds of stories on the market. Rashford, Casemiro, Gahey. So lots to get into.
Oh, Gahey. I don't really even want to talk about that one, but I'm sure we will get into that a little bit later on. Coming up then on the show today, we'll be discussing the latest on Marcus Rashford, as well as a few other players who could be on the move this January.
We'll be looking at the managerial situation at West Ham.
Luke Edwards from the Telegraph will be dropping in to chat about the Premier League title race.
Ben will be competing against GiveMeSport's Tom Bogert in the Quickfire Mailbag Challenge.
And we hear from Cristiano Ronaldo and his thoughts on the 2034 World Cup in Saudi Arabia. This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport.
Okay, so before we get started, this is a brand new show and I want to get to know you guys well enough. Okay, so let's take a few minutes to speak to each other, find out about yourself. Olivia, I'm going to start off with you. First of all, where are you from?
Yeah, this is something that people probably don't know about me. Is that my mum's Italian. She's from Naples, which I haven't actually been to. I've been to quite a few places in Italy, but I've never actually been to where my mum is from. And my dad is actually from Gibraltar. So I'm Gibraltarian, which is technically British, which is weird because obviously if you haven't been to Gibraltar, it's obviously connected to Spain. You can walk across the border, but once you get into Gibraltar, there's English road signs, there's a Morrison's. It's really quite strange. I would always encourage people to go if they haven't been before. I've got a bit of Mediterranean in me, Joel.
Oh, okay, nice. And you know what? Look, if you don't know, I know that you're a Chelsea fan. I mean, you're always taking digs at me. You know, tell us about your Chelsea origins, how it started, your favorite footballing moments. But when you do it, please make it quick because I don't want to hear too.
Yeah, you've heard this a million times. I mean, if you don't know I'm a Chelsea fan, then something's gone wrong somewhere down the line. I would say how I'm a Chelsea fan is actually quite a funny story because my dad, when he was growing up, was very cricket and football. The family was like split. My granddad, his dad was very cricket. And Dad somehow ended up going, I think it was the 67 FA Cup final Dad went to and said he was going to support whichever team lost, and Spurs beat Chelsea that day. So he became a Chelsea fan, and I'm like, oh my gosh, can you imagine me being as like passionate about Spurs as I am Chelsea? So then growing up, I obviously just took my dad's team. So that's how I'm a Chelsea fan. And I've got a few footballing memories. Obviously, Joel, like, you can't relate to this, but like Chelsea won the Champions League twice. So being there in Porto for the 2021 Champions League final was probably my favourite footballing memory as a Chelsea fan. But as a football fan, I would probably say up there as well as Lionel Messi winning the World Cup.
Nice. Shall I tell you a bit about myself?
Let's flip it to you. Well, we all know you're an Arsenal fan, don't we, Joel?
If you didn't know, I'm a gooner. You know, no, I'm there. Whether I've got a mini trophy or not, letting you know, or arguing with other fans. But yeah, it's all in good jest. I'm an Arsenal fan with a bit more sense than most people do. I like to think I have more sense than the others. And for me, favorite moments, I guess it's my favorite moments are probably the fact that I get to see some of these people that I grew up loving and, celebrating and imitating as well. And just being able to speak with them for work and stuff like that. I will never take it for granted. I'm just so thankful. And I love going to the games as well. Favorite football in memory. I don't have one. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I was able to take my daughter to her first Arsenal game like a few years ago. Yeah, so and then she started doing the Ian right chant, and Righty saw it as well. So
Righty's a ledge, isn't he?
Yeah,
How much of a legend is Ian Wright? Yeah.
No, just too much. So yeah, I think that's probably my best footballing memory. It took me a while to think of it. But Ben, what about yourself, mate? You're wearing a Miami Heat shirt. You're wearing a basketball top. You're in England, I'm presuming. What's going on?
Just before we come to my story, a point of clarity. A little birdie tells me that you grew up much, 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 much closer to Crystal Palace. So why are you an Arsenal fan?
I mean, do we need to get into that detail, guys? But I'll
I
tell
just
you.
feel like you have to support the club closest to you, which is why I'm a Leicester fan.
Ian Wright, seeing the success that they had over in North London, I saw someone that, at the time as well, looked like me, someone I could create, look at, and his celebrations were so iconic that, I don't know, you just fall in love, right? And he played for Crystal Palace as well, so that's my little excuse.
So you followed him over, fair enough. So mine are really simple, probably easier than yours to explain. I'm from Leicester. I support Leicester because that's what proper football fans do. I've got Claudio Ranieri behind me, as you can see, lifting the Premier League title. Leicester obviously have won the league more recently than Arsenal. And then on the other side, Lionel Messi. That was one of my favourite football moments, being actually in Qatar to watch Argentina and Messi win the World Cup. From a Leicester point of view, it wasn't just winning the Premier League, it was also the game before going away at Man United, drawing 1-1. Wes Morgan got an equaliser. Leicester were almost mathematically over the line. And in the away ends, there were these blue flares going off. All the Manchester United fans left. The stands started leaking as ever. And the Leicester fans stayed for about half an hour. They just wouldn't leave because the celebrations started. And then, of course, it went to Jamie Vardy's party, and Olivia's own Chelsea and Eden Hazard gave us the little helping hand. We got over the line. Leicester won the Premier League. So I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Hazard and Chelsea as well.
That man. By the way, happy birthday to Eden Hazard. It is, in fact, the time of recording, his 34th birthday today. He is I actually would go as far as saying he is probably my favourite ever Chelsea player. So, Ben, you're welcome. You're welcome for Eden Hazard doing Eden Hazard things. But you would deserve that Premier League title. And Tottenham ended up coming third in a 2-horse race. So everyone was happy, weren't they? Or was it Arsenal?
Incredible.
Did Arsenal come? No, was it Tottenham or Arsenal that came?
Tottenham were the closest. But you know what, actually? Leicester played Arsenal. Danny Simpson got sent off. Arsenal won in the last minute. This was in the early part of the year. And everyone said, Arsenal are going to win it. Leicester are going to bottle it. And then what actually happened was that Arsenal faded. Spurs were the closest challengers, but nobody got anywhere near Leicester because, of course, we had the likes of Riyad Mahrez and the mighty Jamie Vardy, who somehow is still going at the top level.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing that was. I remember that so vividly as well. Right, let's move on, shall we? This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport.
Now, at the start of every show, we'll be tasking Ben with a question that he must find the answer to by the end of the episode. Today's question is from super producer Nick. First one, where will Randall Kolo Muani end up?
I'm on it. We know some options already, but I'll find out a bit of new information for you. The links in the Premier League, by the way, Manchester United and Tottenham, but more to come after I've made a few calls.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next story.
Yes, let's look at our top story then. As we all know, Marcus Rashford reveals that he wants a new challenge away from Old Trafford. He wasn't in the squad on Sunday for United's much needed point and improved performance against Liverpool. I mean, Ben, he's been in the squad once or twice, but he's been out of it largely under Ruben Amorim. Just can you bring us up to date on this situation regarding Marcus Rashford?
Yeah, the situation is an exit is possible, but it comes with complications financially. So are Manchester United going to do a temporary exit? And would they be prepared to cover some of the Rashford wage? And if so, the pool of suitors opens up. So what we can say is that interest is growing in Marcus Rashford. A week or so ago, when the window opened, Manchester United hadn't got any concrete approaches. Saudi Arabia had gone direct to the Rashford camp and he had said no. But nonetheless, there were 3 clubs in Saudi Arabia that wanted to explore that possibility, particularly Al Ahly, who are looking still for a left-sided forward or winger. But Rashford said no to Saudi Arabia, probably with the 2026 World Cup in mind. And now flash forwards, and we have some European interest from Dortmund, from Milan, and there's a little bit of substance as well to the Napoli links too. So the next step is really on Manchester United, because in a permanent exit, they will want 40 million or more. And of course, Rashford may be asking for the vast proportion at any new club of his current £325,000 a week wage. If alternatively it's temporary, a loan with an option, then Manchester United might go down the line that they've done in the past with Jadon Sancho and contribute some of the wage. And then, of course, from a suitor like Milan, who are probably pushing more than anybody at the moment, they might be able to afford it. So we're early enough in the window, and with the interest growing, a Rashford exit is feeling very realistic. But he wants to stay either at Manchester United under certain circumstances or alternatively in Europe to make sure that he doesn't damage his 2026 World Cup chances. Because remember, when Thomas Tuchel was at PSG, he wanted to sign Marcus Rashford. So although some people will say he didn't get picked for the Euros, he's going to be out the loop, he's getting a bit old by international standards, even though, of course, he's only in his late 20s, we mustn't forget the fact that Thomas Tuchel rates Marcus Rashford. So if he's playing and on form and happy with his football at Manchester United or elsewhere, then those England chances may not be over.
That's interesting. I mean, Ben, you also had the chance to catch up with ex-Man United player Lee Sharp to hear his thoughts on a move from Rashford, the fact that it looks inevitable. Let's play the video.
Looks that way, doesn't it? I think with his statement that he's come out with the manager leaving him out of a couple of squads, but with the statement he's brought out, with the manager leaving him out of the squad, unless there's some sort of reconciled conversation that goes on over the next few days with the manager, then I would expect him to be looking to leave.
Some Manchester United exits are quite public. I think back to Cristiano Ronaldo and his interview with Piers Morgan. Marcus Rashford chose to do an interview where he hinted that he might need a new challenge. Is that the right approach, or do you more agree with Ruben Amorim that it could have been better to go to the manager privately?
I think it's always better if you go to the manager. I think sometimes you can feel like a manager doesn't like you or doesn't want you, but I still think when you're struggling and you're thinking you want to leave, it's still best to go through club channels first rather than go to the press. I think the press can manipulate a bit of a story sometimes and put things a little bit out of context. But certainly it doesn't look good for him. Looks as though he's throwing his toys out the pram and he's just ready to walk away.
Do you think Rashford also has to think about game time and future in light of England as well, having been dropped for the squad for the Euros and the World Cup 2026? Might that be a part of his thinking as well, to potentially leave Manchester United to try and get back in the frame for the 2026 World Cup?
Well, no, I don't think he's thinking about that at the moment. I think the only way he gets back into the squad is by playing regular and playing well regularly. And to be fair to him, although he's not played great of recent times, he's still been getting picked and still been getting his chance. So there's no way he can say he's not been getting minutes on the pitch to try and prove himself to get in an England squad. So I don't think he's thinking I need to go somewhere else to get an England squad. I think he's probably thinking I need to go somewhere else to possibly get away from the pressure he's found himself under at Manchester United and hopefully take a bit of that load off and he can go and get his confidence back and get his form back.
I think he's spot on in what he says about the pressure that it feels like Marcus Rashford has on his shoulders at Manchester United. And it might just be that it's got a little bit too much for him. And to me right now, it looks inevitable that he's going to go. And I think that would suit Man United. I think that would suit Marcus Rashford as well. If you looked at that Liverpool performance, they weren't crying out for Marcus Rashford, were they? I mean, if he reached the form he did a couple of seasons ago when he had that unbelievable season, then you could argue, but it just feels like Marcus Rashford has maybe himself come to the decision that he needs to move on. And I like that he perhaps the Saudi offer was there, but he doesn't want to take that, because we look at Ivan Toney and that situation, and he was scoring goals in the Premier League for fun and has gone to Saudi, and no one's talking about him. No one's even mentioning how many. I don't know how many goals he scored in the Saudi League. I don't know anything about how Ivan Toney's played. I expect him to score loads, but if Marcus Rashford is serious about getting into the England squad, then I think he's got to look towards Europe, because I think he probably has a really, really small chance of getting back in the England squad if he goes to Saudi, which...
Oh my gosh, sorry there, Liv. You had to get into it. I don't know, you was getting emotional about Marcus Rashford, but we have breaking news that's just come in. Ben, what have you got for us, please?
Yeah, we'll come back to Liv. I want to know also, Joel, if you would take Rashford at Arsenal, but some breaking news. Casemiro has received an offer from Saudi Arabia for 650,000 a week on a 3-year contract to move now in January, and that would put him right up there as one of the top 5 paid players in the Saudi Pro League. Now, this is a central deal, which means that it's being driven by Michael Emenalo, the sporting director of the Saudi Pro League, but on behalf of Al Nassr, who do have the squad space. They've got room to add one more foreigner. And the feeling is that Manchester United are going to receive a bid of around 30 million euros. That bid hasn't yet gone in, but the valuation is under half what Manchester United paid when they signed Casemiro from Real Madrid. But Casemiro now has an offer, 3 years to go to the Saudi Pro League. And whereas last summer, when Al Ittihad tried, he was not open to Saudi Arabia, sources say that the player may have changed his mind. So Casemiro, Saudi Arabia, one to watch this January.
Joel, what would you do with 650 grand a week?
That's what he's getting for presenting this show.
First of all, Liv, just fly me to the airport now. If I'm Casemiro, pack my bags. Where are we going? What airport?
That famous Jamie Carragher quote: "Leave the football before the football leaves you." Maybe Casemiro has decided that maybe going off to Saudi now is the best option.
Please leave Manchester before Saudi leaves you. That's what you should be doing. But yeah, you know, if I'm honest with you, his time's done. I mean, for him to really be, he's going to be sold anyway. He's not part of the long-term vision. He's earning good money at Manchester United. I mean, he's got the chance to be able to double that as well, and probably not have the same scrutiny, go into the sunset, have a good lifestyle with your family. What is there to not do? You've won everything. You know, give the others a chance, for goodness sake. Hopefully he takes the deal, because if he doesn't, I'm going to be right there asking if they need someone to, like, you know, carry bags or something like that, because I'm more than happy. But yeah, shall we go back to the Marcus Rashford topic that you were talking about? Because I have some gripes on the way you were presenting that, Liv, if I'm honest with you. Like, I
just think one, he was better off not going to Saudi, because he has a better chance of getting in the England squad. I think it's the right time for him and Man United to part ways, and I think a move to Italy would be really good for him. Yeah,
you know, I think you were being too soft on him. If someone doesn't want to track back, right, and we've seen evidence of this, and people want to always go out, or they're in trouble for being late, or they're not training well, all of this, I guess his time is up and he's decided he wants to leave. No, you've made that decision yourself, mate. End of the day, Manchester United are, every week, they're 12th, 13th, or 14th. That's not good enough.
He could be helping them, couldn't he, if he had the attitude that, yeah. It's obviously something up there, isn't it? It's something mentally, like he doesn't want to be there anymore for whatever reason. Like, and that is his own fault. Ruben Amorim has said he's not in my squad because of his own decisions. I'm not saying that, you know, this is all on Man United. It is on Marcus Rashford. Of course it is. But I just think now, because of the way he's feeling and his mentality, he's not there. He can't play for Man United. He's not willing to do that anymore. So
exactly. That's what I wanted you to say the first time. But listen, for everybody just joining us right now, this is Market Madness. Now, if you're like, what is going on here? You've got news on the ticker. You've got breaking news. You've got tasks that we've set Mr. Ben Jacobs on. He has to find out what's going to go on with Mwani. Is he going to be staying? Is he going to be going? Where is he going? There's so much news and information. We've got me and Liv bickering and arguing, but still providing good information. This is Market Madness. Now, Ben, let's turn our attention to West Ham. What is happening over there?
Yeah, a strange one. So Julian Lopetegui is on the brink. West Ham, in inverted commas, decided to part ways, but it's contingent on finding a new manager. Then they went and offered Graham Potter yesterday a short-term contract that they thought he would be open to signing. But Potter, at the time we're recording anyway, has not given his decision. So Julian Lopetegui this morning took training and there's a limbo period. At the same time, Tim Steden, the technical director, has stepped away from training. He's got an office there. The relationship with Lopetegui is broken down. There's no guarantee that Steden stays at the club long term. And you've basically got David Sullivan, Karen Brady, Tim Steden, all with different opinions about what should be done next. And bizarrely, that limbo is for now keeping Lopetegui in a job, even though our understanding at GMS is that the decision has already been made, that Lopetegui is set to be sacked. It's just a case of when. So Graham Potter's the leading candidate, but Everton are considering him as well. And a little bit of breaking news for you as well. My understanding in the last half an hour or so is that Paulo Fonseca, who has recently left Milan after a difficult spell, is also another name under consideration, as is Matheus Cunha, who is at the moment in charge of Al Ahly. So there's this odd situation at West Ham where the cast seems dyed for Lopetegui, but you can't formalise that exit mid-season until you've lined somebody up. And West Ham historically haven't had any unity over who they've wanted to go for. Finally, they made an offer to Graham Potter, and now they face a nervous wait to see whether he will accept it.
Thanks, Ben. On with the show. Yesterday, Ben took on GiveMeSport's MLS insider, Tom Bogert, in the Journalist Quickfire Mailbag Challenge. Remember, for the latest on all the stories we're talking about, head over to GiveMeSport's website. The link is in the description. This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport. And it is time for the Journalist Quickfire Mailbag Challenge. We're now joined by Tom Bogert, MLS insider for GiveMeSport. Welcome to Market Madness, Tom. How are you?
I'm pretty good, Joel. Not as good as your background is. I need to take some decor lessons from you, and I'll be back better next time.
Tom, are you buttering me up already so you can win?
100%. I'm hoping that you will forget exactly how long 90 seconds is. Maybe give me a little stoppage time, and we'll keep it moving.
This feels like cheating.
I was going to say,
it's a charm.
I've never cheated before, but it sounds and feels good. Feels really good. I just want to say that's a really nice jacket you got going on there. Is that an Arsenal top by any chance, or is that just a
just a 90s vintage looking tracksuit top? That's my entire vibe. That's all I got.
I really like that. Ben, I'm not going to lie, he's winning already.
I don't like this because it's a second challenge, and Bogart somehow come on and got 180 seconds out of you.
Hey, we're already friends, mate. You got a lot of hard work to catch up on. But listen, I want to say thank you, Tom, for joining us. What stories have you been working on recently? What can you tell us?
Oh, man, it's a lot of stuff. Let's see. Lorenzo Insigne, Toronto FC, are trying to get out of that very, very bad contract. We'll see where he ends up in January, if he does at all. But that's a big one that I'm chasing. There's a lot of movement around Major League Soccer. Preseason camp is starting in the next week for most teams and up to 2 weeks for a couple others. So there's going to be a whole lot of transfers. There are young players being moved within the league, young players being moved abroad, teams trying to get some signings over the line. So no shortage of news coming around out of America.
And you going to have any big moves as well from European clubs to the MLS?
Absolutely. There's a lot of teams with money that want to spend it and bring in some big names to Major League Soccer, whether it's big names in terms of, your Neymars or Griezmanns or stuff like that, or just, a new big signing like FC Cincinnati did with Denke from the Belgian league for a new MLS league record of about 17 million.
Oh, wow. Amazing stuff. Now, you're here today to compete against Ben in our Quickfire Mailbag Challenge. Can you answer more questions in 90 seconds than Ben? Do you talk too much, mate?
We both do, so I think that's a level playing field in which we might get through one or two each, and then it'll be a nice low-scoring affair.
Do you know what, Joel? When me and Tom work on stories together, he's very concise, and I send back voice notes. And you'll know this as well, actually, from our conversations, Joel. The voice notes are podcasts. So I back myself to get half a question in 90 seconds based on my history.
It's always good content, though.
It's funny though because he sent me a 4-minute voice note the other day. I said to my missus, I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm gonna have to stop everything I'm doing now because I actually focus. I'm not saying. I said I had to book a meeting for the voice note. But thanks everyone for getting in your questions in on X. Please follow Ben Jacobs on @JacobsBen on X for your chance to get involved in a future game. Tom, you're gonna go first. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, cool. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna start the 90-second timer. Let's go. All right. @ChalkCheese93, thanks for sending in. If a team goes with 2 designated players model, do they have to fill all 4 under-22 spots to get the $2 million in general allocation money from the league?
I'm so happy you had to read that because none of that made sense to you. No, they don't. All they need to do is designate that is the roster building path that they're doing. They do not need to fill all 4 spots to get the 2 million game.
Okay. @Edu17 Burgos, what about Antoine Griezmann to LAFC?
As me and my good friend Ben Jacobs have reported, LAFC, it feels like a matter of when, not if, Antoine Griezmann comes to LAFC in Major League Soccer. We will see if it's this month, or in the summer, or sometime in the near future. But again, Antoine Griezmann, LAFC, we feel pretty confident that's going to end up getting done.
@MLSSELI, any new contract between Kevin De Bruyne and San Diego?
Nothing new since the last. And again, me and Ben Jacobs have reported that there has been preliminary talks. There is interest on both sides, mutual interest, but there is nothing imminent. It was never, ever going to be a January move. It might be the summer, but even that could be too soon because De Bruyne could extend with Manchester City for another year or not. But again, San Diego is an option for De Bruyne if he does come to MLS.
@NotBarley, any recent talks ongoing for Josh Sargent? I know there were MLS teams interested last window. What does his future look like?
Much more likely in the summer transfer window if he comes to MLS for me. That is kind of what I heard a few weeks ago, but I will make some calls after the show. That one counts. That last one counts. I got that in.
That was in off the rim. I'm giving him that as well.
I'll give you that one, Tom. I'll give you that one. Well done. You know what? Really good answers as well. I didn't know what to expect, but looks like you've been doing your homework, which is good. And you are pretty concise. Ben.
I want you to just read off the MLS roster and salary cap rules just to see how quickly or how many times you have to say, what does any of this mean? Because I think that'd be fun too for somebody who
really. Yeah, well,
I feel sorry as well though, because half of his questions are blah 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 rules we don't understand, eating up of your 90 seconds. So his hands were a little bit tied there. Maybe you should have given him the 180 seconds.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to get involved in any of that. That is your words, Ben, not mine. But are you ready to challenge your good mate, Tom Bogert? Are you ready?
I'm going to crush him. I'm going to get 7, 8, 9, 10. These are going to be the shortest answers that you've ever heard.
Leicester City fight talk. Love it. Okay, cool. I'm going to get... Are you ready? Let's put the timer up, please. Ben Jacobs, let's start now. @Reese Keating, who are Villa in for? How much can they spend?
Villa like Malian, they're in talks. They've agreed a deal with the player, and the fee might be somewhere close to £25 million. And keep an eye also on Kolo Muani to Villa.
Oh, @CFCPYS, what's the latest with Mikhailo Mudrik's B sample?
The B sample, meldonium in a 90-second mailbag. That's unfair. It's confidential. We should hear more in the new year. It's taking time because they're testing for more than one substance.
@Talking Wolves, Cunha, contract latest.
It's going to be done within the next 2 weeks. I understand it's a 5-year deal, and there'll be a release clause if Wolves go down.
@Kojase, will Arsenal sign a forward this transfer window?
It's possible. I think in the summer we should still be looking at Benjamin Sesko, maybe Alexander Isak, but Evan Ferguson could be a possibility. The problem for Arsenal is that they've got no loan spots left, so if they want him in January, they'll have to buy him.
@Wilnox8, who are Newcastle looking to sign?
Newcastle want a right winger, especially if Miguel Almiron go, and a goalkeeper as well. Dubravka could be off to Saudi, and keep an eye on James Trafford to St James's Park.
Cole M1010, will Chelsea recall Santos from Strasbourg?
He's doing well, isn't he? So it's all about pathways. At the moment, I've got no indication that they will recall him. They are happy with his game time there and his form, and they're focused on possibly a striker and defense.
Last one in there. You got.
I think that counts because he did answer. He said, "I'm no indication." You got that, and I think that counts.
Did he say I had no indication?
Yeah.
I
I'll
didn't
give him
hear
that. I'd give him that.
I didn't hear that. Well,
Look
I'll
how
be honest with
kind
you.
Tom is. What a humble guy.
I'll be honest with you. I was impressed. I really like this game actually, and I was really impressed. I think Ben, you got shorter questions, which helped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do a new rule for the next one where the first question, the timer will only start after the question. So you've gained a little bit of time.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But I think both of you did really well. And on top of that, I'm much more knowledgeable with what's going on, which is the most important thing. But I have to announce the winner of this mailbag challenge. Who do you reckon won? I'll ask you guys first before I announce. Tom, how do you reckon you did?
I think I had, 22 questions. Math isn't my strong suit, but I think that I had a lot.
And they were long.
I went to bed. It was bad.
Okay.
I think I got 6. I think Tom maybe got 4 or 5.
Okay. Well, I can proudly announce, Mr. Ben Jacobs, that you are the winner. And yes, you got 6 questions and answers in there. Well done. Tom, unfortunately, you only got 4, but you did very well. Thank you very much for losing sleep abroad and joining us here today. Great efforts. If it was down to me, you'll be a winner just with the moustache. But today it's you, Mr. Ben Jacobs. How you feel?
Yeah, I feel delighted. I'm sort of glad, though, because we're going to get the opportunity with Tom to ask him in a bit more detail about some things. He's got great information. And also, I'm going to call it a tie, Joel, because if you go back on the VAR, if we're allowed to introduce this, you'll note that twice in his answers, he mentioned my name. He gave a code with it 2 times in 2 different instances. And for that, I think he gets 2 extra points. So we're going to call this.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. VAR has come into play and it is a tie. Look, before you go, Tom, we want to use some of that MLS knowledge that you have. If you can tell us a little bit more about the Paul Pogba free agent situation. What's going on over there?
Nothing is what's going on right now with Paul Pogba. There's been rumors or thoughts that maybe he could play for a Club World Cup team. Inter Miami would make sense if they had the space. I don't believe that they do. Seattle Sounders are the other American team in the Club World Cup, and that is absolutely a non-starter. There's 0% chance of that happening. So that's all I can tell you with Paul Pogba. The other kind of bigger name that would be coming, like you talked about it a little bit, Ben, with Miguel Almiron in Newcastle. If he leaves Newcastle, Charlotte FC in Major League Soccer want him very badly. They wanted him in the summer. Newcastle wanted upwards of, 15 million pounds or something to that effect. Charlotte were not going to pay anywhere north of 10, if that. And now their desire to spend big on a transfer fee has only gone down because of the limited minutes he's played for the club. So there are talks still ongoing there. Nothing is definitive. Nothing is absolutely going to happen. But I know Charlotte FC really want Miguel Almiron.
What about Neymar to the MLS? What are we saying about that?
I'll take off my Big J journalist hat, and I'll start with, I hope so. I really, really hope so. It was unfortunate the timing when he left PSG and signed with Saudi Arabia. The MLS transfer window was already closed, and that's something that's a bigger topic of why MLS needs to kind of alter their transfer windows, that they didn't have a chance to sign Neymar, because even though teams could sign free agents, if you weren't a free agent when the transfer window closed, you could not be signed. And that's the camp that Neymar fell into. So they couldn't even make any offers to sign the Brazilian. Now, if he's leaving Saudi Arabia in the summer, as I believe that we expect he is, I will be extraordinarily disappointed if his next destination is not Major League Soccer. If there is not a Major League Soccer team that can find the money to convince him to come to MLS. Miami is an obvious one. He just bought a new house or a new mansion, probably would be the better way to say that, in Miami. But again, it comes down to roster space and roster rules, if they will be able to accommodate him or not, because right now they have 2 of the 3 designated player spots filled, and they might fill another this winter. So we'll see. If I had to guess anywhere, it'd be Miami, but never rule out, the Los Angeles teams either.
Tom, can I just trigger you for a moment and humor me, please? We were talking earlier in the show about Marcus Rashford. Seattle Sounders out of nowhere have been linked. And I know that your head's going to explode if we use too much oxygen on this. But Rashford, MLS, any possibility?
This would have been a great question for the game, because I would have said, no, next, move on, nothing to see here, not going to happen, no chance.
And then I just want to ask you a little bit about Austin FC a bit more generally. They've made some big moves, haven't they, in the market? Has that surprised you? And what more can you tell us about their business?
Yeah, so this week they officially signed U.S. international Brandon Vazquez from Mexican club CF Monterrey. That deal is a club record $10 million to sign the center forward. I think he's an excellent player. I think that is an excellent signing. They're not done, though. Sebastian Driussi, the Argentine, who has played for Zenit in the past, he came to Austin. He had one really, really good year and two pretty forgettable ones, and he definitely wants out. River Plate are very close to signing him. Nothing is done there yet because Austin will only sanction an exit if they can bring in another big player. And they are chasing another big player. I do not know who, but the plan is if Austin FC were to let Sebastian Driussi go to River Plate as he wants, and he's already reportedly agreed a deal with River Plate, that they would be only doing so if they could bring in another big player. So if Driussi does leave, expect another big name to come.
As we all know, the 2034 World Cup will be in Saudi Arabia. We have a clip of Cristiano Ronaldo to play for you. He's talking about the tournament itself. Let's play the video.
2034 will be the best World Cup ever. It's amazing. The infrastructures, the stadiums, the conditions for the fans and everything. And after what I see, I'm more convinced that 2034 will be the best World Cup ever. One or two of these kids that I will be together with them today will play in the World Cup. I believe that will continue to grow, especially the female as well, that they grow very, very well too. We have to grow together in everything, not only in football, but in their life. And I will motivate them to work hard and believe on that. The league grows so fast in the last year. If you see the difference is amazing. You have like 7-8 big clubs right now in the league that it's very difficult to beat. The evolution of the players, for example, my teammates and the other teams too, that Saudis grow so fast and they are becoming better players. The country, it's unbelievable. The Saudis, they are very good people. Every year they do big events, football matches, box, entertainment is very high. The future, it's very bright in my opinion. And I'm happy to be part of this successful of the country. And I will be here for sure to see the World Cup.
So Cristiano Ronaldo, very, very excited for the 2034 World Cup in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Ben, you were in Qatar. What are your thoughts on a World Cup in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I think all three of us have been regularly to Saudi Arabia, so we certainly have the perspective of what it's like on the ground. And like Qatar, there are certain issues that naturally the World Cup has to shed a limelight on. But what we can say is from an infrastructural point of view and the football vision that's in place, it's going to be spectacular. And there was something very refreshing in the end about a mid-season World Cup in Qatar. And in addition to that, I think having almost a one city World Cup effectively, where you could get around and stay in one place, fans enjoyed that. Saudi's a bit different because it will be an expanded World Cup and it's not just in one place, but 50% of the World Cup is going to be in Riyadh. And having taken that tour that we saw in the Ronaldo video, some of the stadiums are just jaw-dropping. One of them hangs off the edge of a cliff. You've got the Aramco Stadium, which is going to be home to Al Qadsiya, where Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang plays. And that's kind of a bit like the Rose Bowl almost in the way it looks. There's another one that effectively looks like a transformer, like Optimus Prime. It's kind of red and blue and white, and it can actually change its shape in order to have the roof retract or the screens move in ways where the outside of the stadium is actually something that you can look up to and engage with and watch the game. And there'll be light shows and stuff like that. So it's going to be fascinating how, one, the World Cup grows, two, how digitally orientated and how modern it is and how it plays into the worlds of gaming and the metaverse as well. And then three, of course, by the time we get to that World Cup, what kind of shape is the Saudi Pro League in, and has it been able to fulfill its goal of becoming a top 5 league in the world?
That's interesting. Liv, what are you saying? You going to Saudi? What's your thoughts on it?
I've been to Saudi. I've been to Saudi probably like 4 or 5 times now for boxing. And what I would say is I've enjoyed more each time I've gone. I think the first time I went, it was such an eye-opener because I'd just never been to somewhere like that before. What I would say is they go above and beyond. Obviously, money isn't an issue for Saudi, so everything is extravagant. Everything is huge. Like Ben was saying, the stadiums are going to be amazing. Like if you've been to Riyadh and you've been to Boulevard World, you'll know that even that is it's like another world. You sort of go from, you walk into Paris and they're selling French food and there's a massive Eiffel Tower. Then you go into the next place and you're in Italy and there's like pizza and ice cream. And then you go into Vegas and there's a massive sphere. And all of that was built so quickly as like a tourist attraction. And you can imagine that they're going to be doing the same for the World Cup. Of course they are. So the people are lovely is what I would also say. They're so accommodating. They always they're just like lovely to you whenever you go over there. So obviously, like Ben says, the issues are there and everyone knows the issues. It's similar to Qatar. But in terms of, it's hard to know what it's going to be like. Obviously, a lot of it is in Riyadh, like Ben says. But I mean, I'm enjoying it each time a little bit more. So I imagine in 2034, I'm going to love it. But what about you, Joel? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, you know what?
The only thing I would say, sorry, just to interrupt. The only thing I would say is I don't like a Winter World Cup. I want to be sat in a bit. If I'm not working it, I want to be sat in a beer garden. I want to be in the sunshine watching the World Cup as it happens. And a Winter World Cup for me in England just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, I funnily enough, I wouldn't know because I was in Qatar during the last time. I was baking hard during over there in 2020, 2022. But I look at it and I'm like you, Liv. I've been there for the boxing a few times and I absolutely love it when I go more and more every single time. I mean, you start to appreciate the architecture, the effort that people put in. In fact, I actually bumped into you whilst we were out there, right? I did. Yes, I did. I bumped into you whilst we were out there, and what I remember from it, Liv, if I'm honest, it was fun. They're good. They're good at hosting people. Like you said, money isn't an issue. They're very organized and they're committed to want to improve. So it's very difficult for me to have anything negative to say about it. Speaking about Saudi as well, you've obviously got, Cristiano Ronaldo, huge ambassador. Yes, he's getting paid loads of money, but what is the situation with his contract renewal, Ben?
Yeah, it's fascinating because he's a free agent in the summer and that's when the television rights cycles get renewed. So Saudi deal makers want to resolve this. And as we exclusively reported on GiveMeSport, and I can reiterate it, Al Nassr are already engaged in talks to extend Cristiano Ronaldo's contract by at least a year. And that will mean that he stays in Saudi Arabia and obviously continues playing, putting himself in contention for the 2026 World Cup, which is another dream of his. He's very settled in Saudi Arabia. So Al Nassr are confident that Ronaldo will extend. And keep an eye, by the way, on that Casemiro story, because if Casemiro joins Ronaldo at Al Nassr, it's probably another clue that he's going to stay. Now, the other theory doing the rounds is that instead of staying at Al Nassr, he'll do the unthinkable and go across to Al Hilal, and that will allow him to play in the Club World Cup and maybe a final swan song for Messi versus Ronaldo. Now, when I was in Miami for GiveMeSport, I put that to the Al Hilal CEO, and he called the move, quote, science fiction. So at the moment, it looks like an extension at Al Nassr is more likely, but you just never know because in Saudi Arabia, it's not just the clubs, it's the central deal makers. It's what's going to make the biggest splash. So Al Hilal want Mo Salah. If they can't get him, maybe Kevin De Bruyne, but we think that MLS is a more viable destination if he leaves Man City. So then they're going to have an opportunity ahead of the Club World Cup to bring in a big star to take to America. You just never know. There's certainly some people in Saudi at a central executive government level that like the fanciful idea of Ronaldo switching to Al Hilal. But right now, I can confirm it is Al Nassr that are trying to get Ronaldo to renew.
Ben, what about that move for Joel Beya to Saudi? You got any news for that?
Apparently they can't afford you. They have to draw the line somewhere.
I mean, it's just getting ridiculous.
They're putting all their money.
Oh, Joel, It was your turn to get cut off this time. But we have some more breaking news. Ben, what have you got for us this time?
Yeah, I can tell you a big boost for Wolves. Matheus Cunha has verbally agreed a new 4.5-year contract with a 1-year option as well. Wolves have been optimistic for the last week or so, despite some links with Arsenal. And now Cunha has agreed verbally, and this is expected to be formalised in the next week or two. Certainly, by the time the January window is closed, Cunha is expected to be on a new long-term deal. But there is a bit of a twist here, and that is that there is a release clause in the new contract extension, which will be active if Wolves go down. And that clause is only £45 million. Whereas if they stay up, or if somebody was to somehow try and make an offer, even though, of course, Cunha is about to sign a new contract, Wolves' valuation is double that, £90 million. So Cunha going nowhere in January, Wolves were never going to entertain offers. And the only thing I'd add about the release clause is that it's somewhat irrelevant, because come summer, whether Wolves stay up or go down, there is an appreciation that if the move is right for Cunha and the money is right for Wolves, he could still actually end up leaving in 2025. So this is sort of a classic example of where a player extends, it takes them off the market in the short term, but Cunha and his future may still be a story for us to be across come summer.
Next up, Luke Edwards from The Telegraph will be joining us for transfer talk, including Newcastle's comings and goings. Luke Edwards from The Telegraph joins us now. Hi, Luke. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Enjoying dry January. So
you're one of them, are you?
So I'm shocked. Not normally one of them. No, but I am this year.
I can't relate to that, Luke. I can't. Right, you cover Newcastle, so that feels like the most natural place to start. And before we get into some of the dealings in the transfer window regarding Newcastle, I mean, first of all, currently 5th in the league, 1 point off Chelsea in 4th, but they just don't even look like slowing down. The run of form they're on is just absolutely brilliant right now.
Yeah, it's been really good. Quite a turnaround. They had quite a sticky autumn. I don't think the international breaks really helped them. Just whenever they got a bit of momentum, the international break came along. But they've really found the right balance to the team. And the key probably has been the midfield. Sandro Tonali, Joel Linton and Bruno Guimaraes. I don't think I'm alone in thinking that there's not many better midfield three than that trio. So perfect sort of blend of power, finesse, creativity and technicality. And that has been the kind of foundation for this excellent run of form they've been on. And of course, they've also got a fantastic manager in Eddie Howe as well. So yeah, I think they're a real clear and present danger to the teams challenging for the Champions League this season.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, we've seen plenty of players been linked away from Newcastle. What do you have the latest on Miguel Almiron's future?
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation this morning, actually. I'm expecting him to go. I think we'll be talking in the region of sort of £8-10 million. Newcastle were looking for 12 million. I think the MLS is the most likely destination. But it was sort of described to me. I think you had Charlotte FC, didn't you? One of the key members of the staff there talking about when he was their player. I think we're a little bit way off that. He's been sort of quietly phased out, really, by Eddie Howe. He isn't even coming on in games as a substitute at the moment. I think there were deals lined up for him in the summer, and he didn't take them. I think he was given a sort of ultimatum of about 48 hours, whether he was going to go to Saudi Arabia or not, and he turned down that move. Which obviously caused Newcastle a few problems for PSR in the summer. I'm expecting him to go, but it has been described to me as until that asking price is met, these talks are going to drag on. So I'd expect it to be something that happened later in the window, which probably isn't that much help to Newcastle in terms of their freeing up some room with PSR to sign someone this month. But I am expecting him to go, and I think it's best for both parties as he does go.
Luke, do you think Newcastle need outgoings? You've mentioned PSR there. You know, like I say, we've heard of big names being linked away from Newcastle. Do they need outgoings? And also, is one of those players, could be Dubravka, could he be off to Saudi potentially, even though he's been playing when Nick Pope has obviously been injured because he's had a lot of injury problems?
I think that they're not going in breach of PSR. I mean, I have to get that clear. They are going to pass as things stand. They're not going to get into a repeat of what happened last summer, edging up to that June 30th deadline when they had to sell Elliot Anderson and Yakuba Minter to Nottingham Forest and Brighton. They're not in that sort of mess. I think there's a lot of strategic thinking going on at the moment in terms of Paul Mitchell coming in as sporting director. So they could spend this month. I certainly wouldn't rule out 100% that they will not do anything incoming. But what that will mean is it will then limit their scope in the summer. And I think what they would like to do is do a little bit of squad pruning. So if that means Miguel Almiron going, great. Martin Dubravka, as you said, has got a move to Saudi Arabia lined up. I think that will definitely happen once Nick Pope has proven his fitness and can start games again. I think Dubravka will go to Saudi Arabia. I think that deal's pretty much done in principle. But what they're trying to do is make sure that when they get into the summer, when they do a proper squad rebuild and rejuvenation and fill those problematic positions at right centre-back, striker, right-sided forward, they've got the financial leeway to do that. So by getting rid of 2 players this month, that would free up the room to spend now. But I think the kind of view is they'll be better waiting to the summer.
Luke, I just want to ask you about a couple of strikers, if I can. Alexander Isak, we constantly hear about Arsenal and other clubs and how Newcastle value him as high as £150 million. What chance of a summer exit? And is Newcastle's position still that he is untouchable?
I think in the short term, definitely untouchable. There is zero chance. I know these sort of definitive statements can come back and haunt you as a journalist, but there is zero chance of him leaving in January. I think the £150 million price tag is deliberately designed to ward off that interest, to deter anyone from making a bid of 70, 80 million to try and test the water. Ben, I think what you have to understand about Alexander Isak is he still has 3.5 years left on his contract. Puts Newcastle in a very, very strong negotiating position. He's never told anyone at Newcastle that he wants to leave. They also signed him for £63 million from Real Sociedad in the summer of 2022. So from a business perspective, that is why you would only consider selling for 150 million, because you need to make so much money back for it to be worthwhile in terms of making a profit for PSR. So I think in January, it's a no. The summer will be interesting. Newcastle's stance at the moment is that he won't be for sale, that the cost of replacing him and the qualities that he brings to the team make him effectively priceless for them. But, of course, the players' interests and wants have to be taken into consideration as well. I think clubs will test Newcastle's resolve in the summer. I think Newcastle are prepared for that. And they will wait and see and sort of across that bridge when they come to it, as it were. If Isak starts to agitate for a move, if, say, a Manchester City or an Arsenal bid 120, 130 million, and I seriously think, Ben, that is what it will take to even get Newcastle to the negotiating table, will he start to agitate to move? The view internally is that he won't. I think Newcastle will try and extend his contract in the summer. Because with 3 years left, he's at maximum market value in the summer. I think if they can get him to extend his deal, that's all brilliant news for Newcastle. But teams are going to try. Arsenal are probably going to try, but I think all the top clubs in Europe will try. So it's not a clear-cut situation. I just think Newcastle are going to have their resolve tested. Now, if they can get Isak to agree a new contract, I don't think they've got anything to worry about as such. If they get Champions League football next season, that takes away one of the main reasons for Isak to leave. So Newcastle secure a top 4 finish, Champions League football. I think Isak signs a new contract, and I think he stays at Newcastle long term, certainly for the next two years at the very minimum. If they don't get Champions League football, I think they'll have a decision to make, particularly if they can't get him to agree to sign a new contract. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think in the short term, there's zero chance of him going anywhere.
Luke, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to have you on.
You're welcome.
Don't forget, you can follow Luke on X at Luke Edwards Telly and follow his work across the Telegraph platforms as well.
Now let's move on to the final part of the show. We'll find out if Ben has successfully answered the question put to him by super producer Nick regarding Randall Kolo Muani. Plus, Olivia has a little surprise news story for us. This is Market Madness from GiveMeSport. Liv, what have you got for us today?
This is a surprise news story. But first of all, you will see all of the breaking news. This is called Market Madness for a reason. All of the breaking news you can see at the bottom of your screen will come up in a little ticker right there. But one of the big stories that's come out today is that Spurs have triggered an option to extend Heung-min Son's contract by a year. So obviously his contract was up in the summer. I'm sure there were plenty of clubs out there that might have been looking at getting Son on a free, but Spurs have triggered that. So he will be at Spurs for 1 more year at least. But to my surprise news story now, because how's your Bosnian football knowledge, boys? Any good?
Oh, yikes.
Brilliant. Right. This is a great story for you. So we always see that, you know, when teams are bad, that, you know, everyone always suggests, why don't you just sack the whole squad? But obviously you can't do that. So that's why the manager gets sacked, right? Well, Sloboda Tuzla currently sit bottom of the Bosnia and Herzegovina Premier League after claiming just 2 points from their opening 17 matches. Last month, the president of the club sacked the entire staff, playing staff, and the manager. He sacked everyone.
Wow.
He got rid of everyone. He said, I'm convinced that we can assemble a better team than the one that has picked up just 2 points so far. It will be difficult to make a new team, but it's doable. He has sacked the entire squad. And I'm just going to put it out there that I actually think this should happen to Chelsea if we don't win the Conference League.
Wait, what would you do? Would you sack the B team or would you sack everyone?
No, I'd sack everyone. Everyone's out. Everyone's a goner. What do you think, though?
Breaking news again whilst Olivia's speaking. Ben, what have you got for us today?
Yeah, I feel like I keep needing to apologise. We'll come back to that what you think question in a moment, but just a little line on Bournemouth, and Daniel Jebbison is to be recalled from Watford, where he is currently on loan, and go back to Bournemouth to provide cover for the injured Evan Nielsen. So Daniel Jebbison has seen his loan spell cut short. And just because we were talking about Chelsea and sacking players, worth reiterating again a story we broke yesterday on GiveMeSport, which is that Trevor Chalobah is one option to be recalled from Crystal Palace back to Chelsea. And we know, as we said at the top of the show, and we had it in the mailbag challenge with Tom Bogert as well, that Mark Gahey is another option with Chelsea considering re-signing him. So lots happening, but once again, Danny Jebbison recalled from Watford to provide cover for the injured Evan Nielsen at Bournemouth.
Oh, man.
Thank you very much, Ben. Okay, just quickly before we move on, what are your thoughts on this Bosnia and Herzegovina club sacking their entire squad, Joel?
Well, first of all, if it was Chelsea, you would sack everyone. You would still have like half a squad left because you just squad loan in sports. But yeah, he's a businessman, isn't he? Clearly, that's my thoughts. He's a businessman.
How do you reassemble a squad when they have like games? It's mid-season.
Just got to start from scratch, innit? Just hold some tryouts during the course of the week and see what happens, I guess, really, innit? Get some top scouts involved. Ben, what about you?
Well, I think that if you sack a whole squad, then you have a whole bunch of legal cases to deal with and a whole bunch of recruitment to do and not much time left in the window. So unless they've got a bunch of kids in Bosnia that can step up and do the job, then I don't see how that can continue, nor do I think that the players will necessarily be particularly happy about the situation and just sit back and say goodbye. So that is a shocking, shocking story, but a great find. I love those kind of stories. If anybody else that's kind of watching has got those under the radar stories, wacky or feel good, then feel free to send them to us.
Indeed, indeed. So, Ben, how have you got on with your question challenge? To remind the viewers and the listeners, you were tasked with finding out where will Randall Kolo Moani end up. Now, I'm saying it like that because, guys, he's originally Congolese, even though he plays for France. He's originally from the Congo. So there was plenty of boys and friends that I had when I was younger. They called him Randall. So yeah,
you got to roll the R. Randall.
Maybe I'm overdoing it a little bit, but yeah. What's your thoughts?
And how's Moani pronounced? Have we got that right?
Yeah, Moani is correct. I mean, there's a slight little bit of an accent when you say it in Lingala, which would be his mother tongue from whoever's parent is from the Congo, but it's correct.
I'm just buying time, by the way, on the pronunciation because I don't have any answers for you.
Yeah.
No, I do really. So what we can say is this. Firstly, the interest in Kolo Muani is extensive. There's 3 clubs in particular that have started active discussions on the player side. Tottenham, and I would call him the top target for Spurs at the moment, Manchester United and Juventus, but the likes of Milan, Leipzig, Bayern, Aston Villa, they've all explored a deal. Now, naturally, we respect the journalism of others, and there have been some reports out of France that say Chelsea may enter the race. That's not my understanding. I don't believe that Chelsea will make a move for Kolo Muani, but where that may have come from is that PSG would be very interested in Christopher Nkunku if the player decides to agitate for an exit, because Chelsea don't want to lose him mid-season. But Luis Enrique is screaming for a player in the Nkunku mould, playing behind the lead striker as a false 9, a 10, an advanced state, whatever you want to call it. And naturally, if PSG want Nkunku, then they don't really mind where Kolo Muani goes as long as it's on the right terms. But Chelsea not in the race. Plenty of other clubs are. Now, from those clubs, as I say, Spurs are really the one to watch. Manchester United sources are downplaying their chances at the moment, and Juventus is a big one because it may well be that Dusan Vlahovic finally leaves, and all manner of clubs have been linked, including, of course, historically Arsenal and also Manchester United and Milan, another one too. But right now, I think you're looking at Spurs, Juventus, and then Manchester United in the frame. But the reason why it's being downplayed is because Manchester United sources tell me that the conditions of a deal are not what they were first thinking or hoping for. And PSG are adamant in this early stage of the window that if Kolo Muani leaves, it must have an aspect of permanence, which means loan with obligation or, of course, a straight sale. Now, if there's no resolution or if the player picks one club, that can change. But we're in a part of the window at the moment where it's a seller's market and the buyers don't really gain an advantage until the final week or days of the window. It's so quick. And the sellers know that there's urgency and therefore they can stick to their position. So PSG, I'm told, want a loan with an obligation at around £50 million. And Tottenham may be able to find a way of structuring that. Manchester United don't have that kind of money without a major outgoing and fee coming in. And from Juventus's point of view, they could try and leverage a player going the other way. But those are the 3 main clubs. We can't discount the interest from Germany. From Villa's point of view, PSG do have a concrete interest in John Duran. So maybe there's a way of the clubs working together. But I'm told right now that Tottenham in particular are extremely serious about Randall Kolo Muani. Sorry, Randall Muani.
Smashed it, Ben.
Well done.
Smashed it.
I can
We've
hear
got the answers.
We have, and I can hear
and we got the pronunciation.
And
yeah,
the pronunciation.
no, very Congolese, Ben. Well done.
Guys, this is it. First show done. Enjoyed it?
It was good.
It was mad.
Yeah.
The name didn't let us down.
I was going to say it was the definition, I think, of market madness. But thank you, everyone, for tuning into the show. We will catch you next week and we'll be talking about all the biggest transfer stories once again. We're going to introduce our debate challenge. We'll give Ben another live question task and we'll, of course, be joined by more guests as well. You can watch us on YouTube and Facebook, or you can listen on your podcast app of choice. The links are in the description.